Well, hi, good morning, everyone. David Cross is back here again. I kind of disappeared for a couple of days. I wasn't slacking off. I was still working in the mornings and working on my projects. And a couple of days ago, one of my colleagues had asked me if I had anything, and he'd watched the statistics video I had and asked a question about it. And I had shown him some of my polling utilities. I went out and pulled the stats. And so we tried that on his servers, and it didn't work. And what I come to find out is that when I was building a class file that I could parse out the statistics, I was doing it through a process where I was pasting the XML into Visual Studio, which then builds a class file, and then that class was parsing out the statistics. But we found that that was only applicable to the parameters that were actually set during the time that I pasted that, and his did not have those values. So I decided against that process, and now I'm starting over on how I'm going to do that Visual Basic component. But I really wanted to show you where I'm at as kind of a short video to talk about this a little bit further, because it does lend into what we're doing with the PowerShell and the stats and how that detail is passed back in XML and what we can do with it. So I started a new project, which I'm going to call my Bind DNS Stats Viewer. And effectively, again, what it does is it uses the statistics channels with a polling timer that allows me to go out and talk to that server, pull back the stats. And I have this one now where it's pulling back and processing all of the pure XML so that I can pull back all the values and then again on the timers. And then a couple other things I found too is that there were so many timers and so many different counters that I really didn't feel like parsing everything and or feel that there was value in those zero timers, unless of course there is to you and your monitoring of that. So I added a couple other things in here too that would limit the counters to only those that had values, so I could really kind of see what was going on. I also, tend to think that as a server at the high level, I wanted to get all of the statistics for all of the different query types from a server level, kind of capturing all of the zones and all of the resources. But I also had different views and zones specifically where there were other types of counters that I wanted to make available as well. And so what I ended up doing here is providing basically a filter. So I have this polling process going on in the background, which is doing this in real time as I'm working through this. And I'm also working within virtual list views within VB.net that allow you high performance list view addition and manipulation of these items so that your performance is instantaneous on selection. And so what I found is by filtering these out now, I could quickly pull in the stats in real time of what was the last counter, filtering it out only for the display at hand. And then I added a couple of counter watch lists that I'm going to start adding that, there's some counters that you want to look at and you want to store those. And then I want to be able to set up some type of alerting on these that at some point I'll be able to set up custom alerts that will send traps or emails or, something to give you some indication that these are no longer valid at that point. Now I have to go back and change a couple of things in the way I'm doing refreshes here. As you can see, it's kind of flickering because it is reading these values and updating all of these tables at one time. So I'm gonna go back and hit that as well. And in clearing the filter again, you can pull those values out. And then lastly, I can remove the counters, add the counters, continue to update these in real time and monitor that. And then I can change this polling in real time so that when it finishes one cycle, it'll start up and check that poll timer again. And then I can increment that and, again, continue down the path I was working on. And really lastly, down in the time here, I just wanted to see, how long is this running? And we might want to use this in order to determine from a session, what are the queries per second, what are the queries per minute, 5 minute, an hour, whatever those increments are. And I'll start working on, some of those tables there. And, lastly here, I just kind of, as you move these things around and you get to these zones specifically where we're pulling in statistics, these can get kind of long in terms of your DNS domain. So I have this expanded out, but also, trying to pull up some value that if we're highlighting it, it'll update on the bottom status what that current column is. Just a couple of visual cues here. So anyway, thanks for joining me, and this is what I'm working on. I want to kind of move past this at some point and start working back on my other projects, but I thought this is of interest, and as I go through the XML and pull this out and create this custom class, I'll probably do another video specific to VB.NET in this project to give you an update on where it's at and kind of show you the code that I've come up with behind all the scenes here. It's a little messy at this point, so I didn't want to embarrass myself too badly until I had a chance to clean it up. But I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and let me know if you have any interest in these things, and I'll see if I can make it available to those who might want to download or try it. But let me know your comments. Appreciate it, and have a great day. And I'm gonna come back with some other things here in the scripting and codes to get back on track, hopefully here in the next day. Thanks again. Have a great day, and look forward to seeing you soon.